Welcome to the Peak Performance and Peak Satisfaction podcast with Master Executive Coach Sherry Gregoff. Sherry helps business people perform better, get rewarded handsomely, and actually enjoy their work. After having her own career turnaround, she now helps other high-powered business professionals experience the same. Join the movement to work differently.
Welcome to the podcast. It's great to have you here. In business, we can fall into a pattern of wanting to please the person sitting across the table, whether it's a boss, a peer, or a team member. It sounds innocent enough and full of good intention, but counterintuitively, this can stymie your personal growth, your contribution to the business, and development of your unique voice, distinct from everyone else. In this episode, learn strategies to stop people-pleasing so that you can add more value to your business and advance your career. Before we jump in, I want to shout out one of my clients who had a win in this area. Here is the quote from her. "I can't believe how I wasn't using my voice before. This is getting strength in my voice and to do things differently, to live and work differently." This client was experiencing the symptoms of people-pleasing, the aftermath, if you will. She was frustrated with the direction that things were going at work, but felt silenced, like she couldn't speak up to steer things in a different direction. This ranged from hiring decisions, to scope of the function, to how partnerships with other departments were managed, and how clients were serviced, to how people were being treated, and how her career was progressing. When we explored why she didn't feel safe enough to speak up and share her views, ideas, and feedback, we found that it was a fear of rejection, of being ostracized for speaking up against the crowd, and a fear of losing her job as an extension of that, a fear of there being retaliation by not going along with how things had always been done, or the well-publicized direction of the business. Together, we unpacked that taking the route that felt easier in the moment, generally being agreeable and deferring to others, was creating this internal conflict and unrest in her that had her seriously resenting her work situation. By noticing the pattern, she was able to promptly reverse it and started speaking up more and making her own decisions about what she would tolerate or not in her work and life. Similar victories are shared by all of my clients, and I have experienced it too in my own career turnaround. So let's hop to today's podcast content and get you on your way to experiencing this also. Age-old career advice that you may have heard was to keep the boss happy and show respect. In corporate, there was a more subservient vibe as the prescription for getting ahead and climbing the corporate ladder. These days, to truly impress the boss, it takes sharing your unique voice to create value in your business. A longtime mentor used to describe to me that our role in business is like a rental. You have that seat for a period of time, so it's best to use your seat, to speak up, to drive the change that you believe will benefit the organization. So often we see our role, our seat, as something we earned and now get to coast in, or something we're entitled to, or something just to try to hang on to. So we just try to keep the peace, to keep the lights on, to keep everyone happy enough that we get to stay put. I love the idea of every role we have as a chapter of our career. How will we make use of our time in that role? What legacy will we leave on the business, the organization, the people, the clients? Will we have left it better than we found it? I raise this right from the start today because if our aim is to drop our people-pleasing tendencies, then we need to discover what's more important than pleasing someone And the most compelling reason that I have found is to seize the opportunity to make things better. For some, it might be doing what's right for the client, or doing what's right for the business, or doing what's right for the shareholders, or doing what's right by our people, even if it doesn't feel so great for our people. More on that later. Or doing what's right and ethical. There is this concept of affection without truth. I think we could all agree that if someone holds you in high regard, but it was only achieved by you not being true to yourself, it's not that valuable. I will share a couple of quotes on this. Love without truth is sentimentality. It supports and affirms us, but keeps us in denial about our flaws. Here's another one. Truth without love is brutality, and love without truth is hypocrisy. If we gauge our people-pleasing, not just on the opinions that emerge from it, but how much good we are doing in our business and in the world, we can start to shake this tendency. When presented with an opportunity to please the people around us, rather than doing what's best for the business, we may think in the moment, we can either be kind or we can be truthful. One of two options. Appease or be honest. Our brain is offering up all or nothing thinking at two opposite ends of the spectrum. It does this because it's attempting to simplify the situation into just two choices on approach, to make it easier on us to make the call. I suggest that both being kind without being truthful and being truthful without being kind each are evidence of professional immaturity. The best answer is the combination of the two. One more quote for you today, this time from Brené Brown. Clear is kind. Let's look at examples of how this often presents in the workplace and how we might thread the needle to include both kindness and truth as the most effective approach. First up, fitting in. I often say the workplace is one of the greatest social experiments. Take a bright business professional and drop them into an organization, an ecosystem of norms with hierarchy, habits, and interpersonal dynamics. Usually our primary instinct is to try to fit in. In business, this may look like posing or becoming a chameleon to adapt to the surroundings. Some call it politics. Figuring out what puts people at ease, gets them to open up, builds trust, and leaning into that. There's a sneaky, even subconscious push to not express ourselves authentically or show our whole self in the office. Maybe you love the arts, but when the boardroom is focused on the weekend's football game instead, you quickly join in. So here, our brain may offer those limiting two alternatives. Be political, connect with others, belong, feel accepted. Or be authentic, be yourself. When speaking about it here, it's easier to spot the compromise, the powerful combination that is always available to us, even when we don't realize it. Connect authentically. So be kind and also be honest. Say the same thing no matter what audience you have in front of you. We don't have to choose between being organizationally savvy and having integrity. The best way to be successful and to have a peace about it is to connect authentically. People-pleasing in a group setting may feel safe in the moment, but will surely wreak havoc on your psyche if you feel you must constantly pose to be accepted by others. Let's look at another scenario, setting boundaries. At first blush, your work situation may appear to have little in the way of boundaries. I'm thinking when emails are sent or meetings are held at super early or late times of days or weekends. The expectation for turnaround time to respond to Slack messages, emails, meeting requests, phone calls. Maybe it's cultural norms on taking time off. It's frowned upon. Or maybe it's an expectation to always be reachable, while technically out of the office. We may think of this as just the way it is, how people work at our office. But this is yet another flavor of people-pleasing. We people-please when we take the terms of our work at face value, when we react to requests on our time. We see others doing the same, and we don't want to miss expectations or let people down. Our brain once again offers up two extremes on how we handle these situations. Assimilate to the office culture on boundaries, or break them at your own peril and don't expect to hang on to your job. We tell ourselves our options are total compliance with the norms, or we lose our livelihood. Once again, the most effective and constructive option is not at either end of the spectrum. Boundaries are all about not letting someone else dictate the terms that you will accept. So we don't have to complain or lament the fact that someone called you at home at night about a work issue, or sent an email early on a Saturday morning expecting an answer same day. We can't control how others behave or their actions, but we absolutely can control how we choose to respond. So instead of saying, "They can't interrupt my holiday break," you can decide that if a colleague calls or emails on your holiday break, that you won't be responding until you are back in the office. Instead of saying, "They can't expect me to handle all year-end business activities and lead these additional events," you can decide that you will postpone all additional events until after the year-end rush is over. People-pleasing by accommodating everyone else's work styles, by sacrificing your own boundaries, is unnecessary and will only breed resentment and burnout. Let's take another scenario. I call this one pats on the back. It's year-end, which means everyone is conducting and receiving year-end performance reviews. My kids in school would call it glow and grow, where you are doing well and what are your areas for development. Here, it is so tempting, whether you are delivering a performance review or receiving it, to people please, to only say and hear the nice things, to purely dole out pats on the back. So many managers fear giving constructive feedback because of the potential blowback from a team member, or the potential to decrease their motivation or engagement. The default tends to be to have a delightful conversation, with no surprises, of course, but also no meaningful feedback for how one might improve. As a manager, we can tell ourselves, this is the kind thing to do. But as we know now, just giving the positive feedback and appreciation is denying that team member the truth. It affirms them, but keeps them in denial about the flaws in their work. Our brain again here offers up two strikingly contrasting scenarios. Laying into an employee with all the bad news, the big things and the nitpicky things, telling them everything they are, quote, doing wrong. Or building them up, re-recruiting them, reassuring them, celebrating their strengths, expressing appreciation for their accomplishments. The most useful answer here, once again, is a combination. Being clear is the kind approach. So a balanced performance review is always the aim. All bases covered in both celebrating their strengths, expressing appreciation for their accomplishments, and, preferably in between, providing feedback on what areas can be improved. Put yourself on the same side as the team member, both at a table and figuratively, and that your aim is the same as theirs, to grow their impact to the business, which in turn grows their career. If that happens, everyone wins. The individual, the manager, the team, the business, the clients. It releases any tension about this being a finger-pointing exercise, a blame game, or a life sentence. This is purely reflection on their performance over a finite period of time, solely in order to improve in the next time period. People-pleasing in the moment to not disappoint an employee in a performance review robs them of the opportunity to improve, to have more impact, and grow their success. Let's look at another scenario, this time with peers. It can be tempting to just have the goal to get along. When it comes to peers and partners, in business, we always have dependencies on one another. Knowing that a peer could sabotage your next big deliverable, or even sabotage your promotion as 360 feedback is taken into consideration. The prevailing opinion may be to not rock the boat. Stay away from ruffling any feathers by not addressing any conflict and problems or bad behaviors head on. This becomes a game of whack-a-mole in my experience, where instead of voicing your concerns or frustrations with the person it is aimed towards, it feels easier to complain and vent about the situation or the people to others. Surprise! That sabotage we were worried about may happen anyway when news travels back to that peer that you are fed up with the partnership. Our brain here may offer up that there are two directions of travel. Say what partners want to hear to keep the conversation going, or blow up the partnership by being brutally honest about what handoffs aren't working, what isn't timely or of high enough quality, how an error on their part threatened your part of the process or value proposition. Here again, it's the middle ground that is most effective. Seeking out partnership, but also two-way feedback. How can we improve? How we work together, or how our functions work together. How would addressing those opportunities help us both? And actually making the suggestions or sharing the difficult feedback in the name of improvement. It's clear is kind again, but this time looking horizontally across the organization. People-pleasing our partners just keeps everyone in the dark and not focused on how to make things better together. And now for a final scenario, perhaps the most challenging. Managing up. Speaking truth to power. This is where some of that hangover advice you received earlier in your career or exposure you had to others that worked in business might be your starting point. When it comes to your manager or people more senior to you, the best course is to pay them lip service. Say what they want to hear. Flattery, agreement, reverence even. All in the name of self-preservation to stay in their good graces. Maybe someone senior to you is on your last nerve with their micromanaging tendencies. Maybe you feel the current corporate strategy is doomed. Maybe you would have made the exact opposite decision than the one that was taken. But in the moment, the prudent course appears to be smiling and nodding, expressing your allegiance, disagreeing and committing. Except the truth always lives on. Maybe you feel like a fraud for staying at a company that you feel are making all the wrong business decisions. Maybe you take everything your boss is dishing out until one day you boil over and walk out the door with zero game plan for your future. Here, too, our brain can offer up just two starkly different alternatives. Number one, say what your boss wants to hear, repeat the groupthink, blindly pile on with their views, to earn trust, to form a bond, to create goodwill. Or deliver the hard feedback and say the unpopular thing. Maybe it's a moment where you come out with the truth. The emperor has no clothes. Come what may, and finally speaking truth to power. In this case, we know that teams and organizations are most successful when they integrate the best feedback and ideas from all team members, when they hear the challenge and either build out their case to continue and refute the claim, or shift gears on their strategy. So once again, we will thread the needle, and this time we'll say the right thing for the business, delivered in a manner such that they can receive the message. Now that we have seen this applied in common real-life scenarios in the workplace, let's understand what is behind this people-pleasing tendency. One way to look at it is choosing your hard. You can postpone the hard and say the easy thing in the moment, such as, I love football too. Can you believe that play? When really, you just watched the game highlights for this very conversation, despite it not interesting you in the least. You may say, great job this year. Keep doing what you're doing, even though there is definitely room for improvement in a few areas for this employee. You might say, sure, it's no problem to put a rush on that project, and we don't mind stepping in for your function. When really, you are about to have a mutiny on your hands for having your people pick up the slack for that sister team again. Or you might say, great idea. Let's keep at it and the results will surely come over time. When really, you think this strategy is a dud and sure to lead to the demise of your department. In all these cases, we chose the easy way. We pleased the listener by taking the road of least resistance. Avoiding conflict, and not being totally upfront or honest with our views. But by choosing easy now, we are also choosing hard later. At some point, this will catch up with us. The office may learn of your real interests and wonder who it is they have been chatting up all this time, feeling duped by conversing with someone who was simply playing a part. Your team member may get turned down for promotion because they finally heard the constructive feedback that you withheld and now are watching their peers leapfrog them on the career path. Your handoff with a peer function goes sideways because you were afraid to rock the boat by suggesting a different way, but now both teams have to answer for missed targets. Your boss has egg on their face for not anticipating a risk to that decision, one that you could have warned them about for a more successful outcome. In the moment when we choose the easy option, we must remember that it is for the worst long term. But if we instead in the moment spot the simplification our brain is presenting to us, two options, kindness or truth, then we can choose the potent combination of approaches instead. It may feel more hard in the short term, but we remember that it's always for the better in the long term. And the more we do this, the more we can build the accompanying muscle to take the sting out of the hard option in the near term. We can be clear and kind. We can be honest and gracious. This is just a new skill. We aren't usually born with it. It's learned with practice. But step one is realizing that this tale of two extremes is just an oversimplification of the situation, presenting two choices, neither of which is most constructive for your business, your professional relationships, or your own satisfaction. There is a better answer, and is decidedly the combination of the two. For such a simple and eloquent solution to an age-old dilemma of people-pleasing, why do we get it wrong so often? Why is this pattern so pervasive? Underneath it all, it is always because our need for belonging and acceptance, and safety and security have won out, have convinced us to default to people-pleasing. Our approach becomes lopsided. All the energy we spend seeking belonging, acceptance, safety, and security crowds out other areas of development, such as contributing to make an impact in the business, distinguishing your own views and value add from the crowd, and growing your skills. These three basic human needs are also important to us, and not having them met can be just as painful and frustrating. But we may continue repeating the same behaviors because we hadn't discovered this link, this root cause holding us back from the success and satisfaction that we seek in our careers. Now that you know it, you will spot the opportunities to adjust your approach. You will seize the opportunities to fulfill all your needs by choosing like this. Rather than purely flattering a colleague, gracefully suggesting a different way to do it so that you grow your contribution to make a more significant impact in the business. Rather than following along with the group think, you step out from the pack and share your contrarian view as food for thought, which distinguishes your skills and perspective from the crowd. Rather than handing out stellar feedback to all your team members, you effectively celebrate and appreciate them while guiding them how to incorporate constructive feedback for more team success and more personal success for them. This is leadership. It's choosing the hard now. It's being bold. It's doing so in a way that doesn't burn bridges or destroy relationships. This is building real trust by saying what needs to be said for everyone's benefit. I promise you that no one will complain that you spoke up with a contrarian view if it saved the business from going under. We all have the same objective in business, and that is for the organization to thrive and clients to be served. But we are all also human and can lose our way a bit on the best way to achieve those objectives. We want to be liked. We want to work in a positive environment, and we can be scared of rejection and scared of failure. But the most successful business people and the most successful businesses create space for esteem and honesty. They celebrate, reinforce, model, and practice being clear and kind. This is a winning strategy. And because in this podcast, we talk not just peak performance, but also peak satisfaction, I assure you that this approach will feel more aligned and more pleasant on a day-to-day basis too. It may be unfamiliar. You may gulp before being clear, but you can also look yourself in the mirror and feel completely authentic. And rest easy when you lay your head on the pillow, knowing you did everything you could to do right by your business, your clients, your team, your colleagues, and your own career by not shying away from the tough messages for fear of hurting someone's feelings. This is leadership. No one said it would feel easy all the time, but it is always worth it. Until next time.
Looking for support in applying the principles and strategies in today's episode? Sherry coaches clients one-on-one as their trusted confidant and advisor, helping each client create the work and life they had only dreamed of. To schedule your complimentary career strategy session, go to sherrygregoff.com/apply to book time with her today. It's one simple step that can change everything.